call the meeting to order. Please join me first for our moment of silence. Okay, thank you. Next, the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have a draft agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda for tonight?
I move.
I got Kelly move and Christy support. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. First up is our recognition student of the month for March.
Bella is the daughter of Kyle and Jeannie. She has a sister named Finley. Bella has 2 dogs, Joe and Bear, and 2 cats, Peanut and Oscar. Bella attended Meadow Ridge Elementary. She enjoys softball, bowling, art, reading, and writing.
Just the fact that I get to learn. I haven't fully decided, so I'm excited to look into more things and decide which one I want to pursue. I find it really cool, but in the end, it's just a title. I'm happy to be here to have like my teachers and friends supporting me through my school journey.
Stella's parents are Karen and Scott. Stella's siblings are Kristen and Elle. Stella has many pets. They are Prince, Leia, Goose, Nezzy, Luna, Nala, and 4 unnamed fish. Stella attended Crestwood Elementary and enjoys skateboarding, running, swimming, and drawing.
I like the independence and how I am able to choose the classes that I want to go to. I would like to be in architectural designing. It means that I am successful in my academic career, but there's always room to grow.
Taylor is the daughter of Scott and Robin. Her siblings are Hannah and Gavin. Taylor has a golden retriever named Loki and a yellow lab named Thor. Taylor went to Cannonsburg Elementary. She enjoys swimming, biking, crafting, skiing, and playing video games.
My favorite thing about school is seeing all my friends and getting to be social. I really enjoy that. When I grow up, I want to be a teacher. I really enjoy working with little kids, so probably like an early elementary teacher. It means a lot to me because I feel that I work really hard, and to know that my teachers notice that hard work feels really good.
Temujin's parents are Mikey and David. Temujin has 3 siblings, Emilia, Peyton, and Nala. He has a dog named Bubba. Temujin went to Parkside Elementary. He enjoys playing chess, swimming, biking, and fencing.
That I can see my friends, some sort of doctor, that my teachers like me and see my hard work.
Savannah's parents are Christine and Michael. Savannah went to Crestwood Elementary School. Her siblings are Brooklyn, Kaylee, Evan, and Lovelyn. She has a dog named Rocky. Savannah enjoys basketball, softball, swimming, hiking, traveling, and camping.
Probably my friends. I don't exactly know yet, but probably either a teacher, pediatric dentist, or an architect. Well, just kind of me doing the right thing just is recognized as a good example personally and academically.
Noah attended Lakes Elementary. His parents are Amy, Josiah, and Brian. He has 3 siblings, Ezra, Miles, and Bella, and a cat named Hazel. Noah enjoys running, playing outside, and music.
Learning different things in science is my favorite subject, and hanging out with friends before and after school. I haven't totally decided what field to go down, but somewhere around the engineering. It was really cool. I'd never really been student of the month before. This is like my first time, and it's just kind of helped. It really made my day a little better when I learned about it, because I wasn't having the best day when I got called down.
Lucy is a 6th grade student on our Oaks and Zomberg team. Parents are Matt, Deidre, and Doug. Lucy has 2 guinea pigs named French Fry and Tater Tot. Lucy attended Belmont Elementary School, plays cello in the orchestra, and is a silk aerialist.
When I grow up, I want to be a professional aerialist. My favorite thing about school is being able to be with my friends and meet new people, to be selected as Student of the Month, to me means that my hard work hasn't gone unnoticed.
Gavin is a 6th grade student on our Oaks and Zomberg team. Parents are Patricia and Brian. Gavin has a sibling named Aubrey and a dog named Newton. Gavin attended Belmont Elementary School, plays percussion in the band, enjoys golf, and is active in Boy Scouts.
I want to be an author when I grow up. One of my favorite things about school is being able to see all my friends every day. It means a lot because ever since I started middle school, I've always wanted to be one of the students selected.
Olivia is a 7th grade student. Parents are Andrea and Joe. Olivia has 2 siblings named Victoria and Lucas, as well as a dog named Luna. Olivia attended C.A. Frost Elementary in Grand Rapids and is active in track, basketball, and sings in the choir.
What I want to be when I grow up is a movie script writer. Seeing my friends every day and also all of my teachers. It means a lot because I really try in school.
Reed is a 7th grade student. Parents are Katie and Tim. Reed has a sibling named Macy, a dog named Penny, and a cat named Whiskers. Reed attended Belmont Elementary School and is active in basketball, football, and baseball.
When I grow up, I would like to be an entrepreneur. My favorite thing about school is probably hanging out with my friends and having the opportunity to learn. It reminds me of just putting in the hard work that it pays off.
Sadie is an 8th grade student. Parents are Laura and Peter. Sadie has 3 siblings named Marie, Helena, and Ewan, as well as 2 dogs named Sally and Riggs. Sadie attended Valley View Elementary School, plays viola in the orchestra, enjoys hiking, cross country, and track.
When I grow up, I'm interested in being an archaeologist. My favorite thing about school is playing the viola in my orchestra class. It means I did something right.
Ryan is an 8th grade student. Parents are Jamie and Mark. Ryan has 2 siblings named Jason and Lauren, as well as a dog named Winston. Ryan attended Roguewood Elementary School and is active in baseball and choir.
When I want to grow up, I want to be an entrepreneur. My favorite thing about school is being able to see my friends and being able to learn. It means a lot because people are seeing my accomplishments in school.
Of the month in the meeting tonight in the audience.
Who would like to say?
Thank you for being here. You're representing the whole crew of students of the month tonight. So thank you for that. So, this is a good time. We'll pause for just a moment. If you'd like to, you're welcome to stay, of course. But if you'd like to leave, we won't take it personally. But again, thank you for coming and congratulations on your recognition. All right, moving on then to our consent agenda items. You'll see 4 items: spring coaches, certified staff resignations, approval of minutes from our February meeting, and presentation of bills. Can I have a motion to approve our consent agenda items?
Moved.
Moved by Nick.
Second.
Second by Jake. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. On to reports. Up first is Olivia, our student representative.
Hi everyone. Alright, so first we have our spring musical. They had shows last week and I haven't been able to go because I had to work last weekend, but all I've heard is that it's been awesome. Everything about it is just so fun and energetic and you get good laughs out of it. There are still some shows this week, Thursday through Sunday, so please go. I've heard it's amazing. And then the art show, we have this going on throughout the school, March 10th through March 19th. It's in the Fine Arts Lobby. We have drawings, pictures, there's woodwork, just everywhere upstairs in the art hallway and even downstairs as well. And all of the hard work that goes into this is awesome. And Quiz Bowl, I just found out that we had a Quiz Bowl team at our high school. And there's 2 teams that compete against each other and they go and get quizzed on history, sports, just a bunch of different questions. And we got first place in West Michigan out of 10 teams. And we have 2 girls from our high school right there. And then girls gymnastics won state champs this weekend. They had individual states and team states as well. They're back-to-back state champs, which is amazing. And then competitive cheer, they got 2nd place at regionals and they earned the highest score in Rockford High School history, which I know is a big thing for them. They also beat Granville in round 3, which I know they're really, really excited about. And then Julian Cardenas won the state champ for boys diving this weekend. Amazing accomplishment. And then an awesome successful wrestling season. We got conference champs, district champs, regional champs, and then we have 4 boys that were top 4 in the state and then 8 individual state qualifiers. And then boys and girls basketball. Girls are regional champs. They play tomorrow. And then boys were district champs. And they play tonight. They're also playing, I think they're playing right now. And then, so every month, we started this year, we're doing staff appreciation. So this month we are doing security and we are also doing our athletic staff. We want to recognize our staff and faculty at the high school and just show how much we appreciate all they do for us and everything they do around the school. And then we had elections in student council today. We had elections today. We had speeches last week. So here are our future exec board members for next year. So president is Camille Dalkey and vice president is Lila Vinsilicum. And then our secretary is Hannah Richter. And then our treasurer is CJ Mixer. Any questions?
Thanks, Libby. Any questions? All right. Great. Thank you very much. Next item is our collaborative team reports. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you. And tonight we have reports from Larry Waters for elementary and Adam Burkholder for secondary. We'd ask you to come up to the front so we can get you on camera.
There's evidence there.
Microphone
there too. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Matthews, Central Office staff, and school board. As you may know, March is Reading Month. If you walk through the elementaries, you can see many signs of that. March is for madness, but we use some of that madness in reading. So you'll see book brackets on the walls, book clubs going on, book bingo, a lot of reading incentives to encourage students to read every day and celebrate literacy. In March also we have our kindergarten registration nights, so it's kind of exciting. I know we're in the midst of this, starting the third try, but we're already looking forward to next year and getting our newest students in the building, their parents, very excited to have them enroll, answer their questions that they might have about kindergarten or developmental kindergarten. So those will be going on this month with screening next month. We have several spring music programs that will be going on. The last several years, we used to have several holiday programs at the high school. In the last few years, we've decided that we would go and do spring concert for some elementary. So we have 4 elementary spring concerts. We had 4 holiday concerts. And in the spring, we typically have our kindergarten concerts. So they are some of the cutest things you ever can see. So if you get a chance, you get to go to one of those kindergarten spring concerts, please make it to one of those. If you showed up a little bit early, came in the back parking lot around 5 o'clock, you probably saw several parents and students coming out of Parkside. And several other buildings are doing the same, as we have Girls on the Run occurring. It's been going on for several weeks. Great response from that and a great program. And we talked about in our leadership today about the why. And I looked at their why. The Girls on the Run, it says, creating a world where every girl knows and activates her limitless potential and is free to boldly pursue her dreams. And if you have participated in that or had a child that participated in that, there is a full curriculum that they go over, and they don't just go on a run. They learn much more than that, and it fits with that purpose of having them tap into that potential. And I want to end with a thank you. We've had Christmas in March, and that Christmas was partly provided by the REF, but also Maggie Thalen. Maggie provided in the fall some PD in mathematics, and she did write a number sense grant that was granted by the REF. So I had my Santa hat and Santa beard on the other day, and the kids were like, Mr. Waters, it's March. I said, but it's Christmas in March. And I was delivering Rec and Recs and fraction tiles and Unifix cubes. They keep coming in and I keep delivering them, and I put the hat back on and kind of throw the kids off a little bit. So we're having Christmas in March thanks to Maggie, her number sense grant, and the support of REF. And I do want to mention, if anybody got a chance to watch the Oscars last night, any of the Oscars, and if you didn't, it's much better than this, but there, and I won't read it word for word because he did use the word at the end that wasn't the best, but it was one of those things where I saw Harry Styles do this too. He stopped in a concert and he said, he's in London, he said, "I heard that my second grade teacher is here." Called her out of the crowd, brought her down on stage. And I'm like, I like Harry Styles. That's really cool, right? Last night, so what was the big winner with the 7 Oscars?
Everything, everywhere.
Exactly, yes. And so the recipient gets up and says, "I had a fantasy as a kid winning an award and going up and telling off all the teachers that gave my brother and I detentions. So here it goes." I'm just kidding, he says. These are the teachers that changed my life, most of them public school teachers. And he went on to name 10 different teachers that had an impact on him. He said, "You guys educated me, you inspired me, and you taught me to be less of a pain." But he used other words. So again, I want to thank you for your support of what we do in the elementary on a day-to-day. It is felt, it is appreciated, and sometimes you have ones that actually recognize that too down the road. So that's not the reason why we do it, but it's nice when you get that recognition. So thank you. Any questions from the board? Again, I didn't do it justice. If you get a chance, you can watch it on your own.
Thank you, Mr. Waters.
Thank you.
Mr. Burkholder.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews, Central Office Staff, Board of Education. I did not watch the Oscars last night, but I look forward to go back and watching that replay. So we're in the home stretch, 3rd trimester in secondary, and it's interesting because when you come back from Christmas break, you start getting things ready for the end of the year, and as soon as March hits, it's the end of the year. Working with Corey and putting together our master schedules for next year, and what are the implications with staffing. So that's all the behind the scenes stuff that's going on, and it's odd to think about the 24-25 or 23-24 school year at this point in time, but that's our reality. So finalizing master schedules in all of our secondary buildings. This is also the time of year where we begin the 5th to 6th grade transition. If you remember back 5-6 years ago, we used to allocate a day. We'd take students from the elementaries, bring them to secondary, and the big thing there was to have kids get acclimated with the building. We still do that, but we do it after hours. We do it from 6:30 to 8 o'clock on the 23rd. And we let the kids roam the building. We have students, 8th graders, who give tours. The biggest hiccup and the part that creates the most anxiety for students is opening lockers. So we have a combination lock challenge where they can race each other. Just welcome into the building, create some familiar faces, and then eventually, as principals and assistant principals, we'll go into the buildings. So by the time kids come in for orientation in the spring, they've seen us 3 times, and they might not remember our names, but they'll recognize our faces. 2, things to celebrate. North Rockford has a spelling bee champ going to represent the Grand Rapids area. His name is Brady Bowers. He's a 7th grader at North, so he won the building, he won the Kent ISD, and now he is going on to compete from other schools across the region in Grand Rapids on the 28th. Quiz Bowl, 2nd year in existence. Last year it was a small club with a few kids, and he just speaks to the power of finding opportunities to get involved. We now have a varsity A, JVB, and a JVA team, so that is growing in popularity. And rumor has it we unseated East Grand Rapids, and it's typically been their first place, something they can hang their hat on. We took it from them, so congrats to those kids. Specifically to the high school, as we look at the end of the year, tomorrow will be one of the first of a few senior meetings for seniors, just making sure everybody's on the same page as soon as you come back from spring break. On the day of the SAT, where juniors are testing, seniors you don't have to test, but you got to come in and get a class picture, and then once again making sure everybody's on the same page. So that's coming up. And then last but not least, with our fine arts, band, choir, orchestras across the board, 6th through 8th grade, had a great showing and great representation, which has traditionally been the case. at festival where they're rated by their peers and students get feedback, and we had primarily ones and a few twos. It's interesting because when you get twos and you're accustomed to getting ones, the kids, they just want, what do we need to do to get better? Give us that feedback. So that's interesting and exciting to see for our music program. Any questions you might have?
Question and a comment. Who's the advisor for Quiz Bowl?
Jamie Goring at the Freshman Center.
And then comment, there's two, I believe, North Rockford Middle School students in the Governor's Art Show, which is in Ann Arbor this weekend for a reception 1 to 3 at the main library. I have their names on my phone, but I won't open it. But
again, fine arts representing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Nick. Well. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, GYO program.
Thank you. Ms. Corey Wilson Crawford will present some information on a Grow Your Own program for educators that we have submitted a grant to the state for. And so I'll let Ms. Wilson Crawford explain that to the board.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. Yes, we are very excited about the prospect. So I'm giving you a preliminary report today because the grants, though we thought they would be allocated by the state for this meeting in March, they in fact are delayed and will be allocated in April. So I hope to come back to you in April with a full report because we will have received our $3.5 million grant allocation that we requested from the state of Michigan. But at this point it isn't guaranteed, and so I'm just going to provide you with a verbal kind of overview of the grant that we submitted to the state. That way if you have any questions about it, you can ask them, but you will have another opportunity pending the allocation of those funds to Rockford schools to be able to ask some specific questions as well. So the state of Michigan is interested in growing the teacher pool of teacher candidates using high school students, existing staff members who maybe don't have a teaching certificate, or people who are interested in becoming teachers but don't have the credentials yet. And so they're engaging in this Grow Your Own grant where they have put out $180 million in their budget, and they've asked school districts and individual schools, is there anything you could do to partner with a university or another entity to increase the pool of candidates that may be interested in working in schools and interested in getting teacher credentials? And so Rockford Schools decided we would put a grant application in. So Lisa Jacobs and I worked on that grant application together, and we submitted 3 separate ways we could attract and retain staff for Rockford Schools. The first one is a proposed partnership with Grand Valley State University. It's something that Mr. Ram has already worked on with our high school students, where we're now having some high school students in credit-bearing program at our high school take preliminary courses in education such that they could then go on and become educators if they choose. So we would solidify that partnership into the future as part of the Grow Your Own grant application. The second university partner that we are proposing is Ferris State University. And at Ferris State University, we would have a partnership where our current support staff who don't hold teaching degrees or bachelor's degrees could go back to school in a cohort group at Ferris State University through a blended model, and they could become certified teachers, and that would be covered by the grant. So at no cost to those support staff members, they could become part of a Rockford Public Schools cohort and then enter the teaching profession that way. So that's an exciting thing to think about for our support staff members who may wish to become certified teachers. And then the third bucket we have is a proposed partnership with Michigan State University, and that would be for current educators. Current educators at Rockford Schools could increase their craft by going to a Michigan State University master's program in a cohort group of Rockford teachers who learn together in what is the highest rated teacher education college in the country, and get a master's degree from Michigan State University. And again, that would all be covered by the grant. So we put a $3.5 million grant in. We think it would cover about 100 people who would then move through a program in cohort group models at one of our 3 university partners. And then we would hopefully expand our own ability to attract and also to retain high quality educators at Rockford Schools. You probably have heard about the teacher shortage that we think is coming our way in the state of Michigan and nationwide due to the fact that we have more educators retiring than we have educators in the pipeline coming through the school system to become certified teachers. We expect that that gap in need is going to continue to grow. And so because of that, we'd like to take a little bit of an approach where we might be able to do some of the grow your own. So we submitted that grant on January 31st. We expected to hear before this board meeting. We did not. So we now expect to hear before the April board meeting. And at that time, if we get the grant allocation, we'll bring back that plan to you so you can see it. But it's exciting. Our Kent ISD also put a Grow Your Own application in as well. Their application is much larger and it covers a different kind of teacher residency model. If they get their grant and we get our grant, we can use both avenues. Right, so a question that you might get if you've heard about the Grow Your Own is that, like, does submitting our own application preclude us from participating in the Kent ISD application, which was done on behalf of all the districts in Kent County? And the answer is no. Theirs is a teacher residency model. It's different from what we're talking about. But should both of those grants be funded by the state of Michigan, we would be able to seek out both of those avenues as means to get highly qualified educators and support staff working here in our district. All right? Any questions for me about our Grow Your Own grant application?
I think you said about 100 total for all 3 tracks combined.
Yeah.
And that's based, is that what we think, what the demand in Rockford is right now that we're aware of, or that's just what it would cost?
That's what we put the grant application in for, would be for, you know, around like 30, 35, and 35.
Yeah,
so.
I've heard anecdotally there are people who are interested. I didn't know if you had a sense of like how many and how big the demand would be.
We did speak to some of our people about that, especially the union who kind of worked with us on some of this, and we think that might be the right size to start. We also anticipate that there will be more Grow Your Own grant applications coming out. I think we've all heard that there might be a second round of a Grow Your Own. So in the event that our Grow Your Own doesn't get funded in the first round, we're going to come back in the second round. In the event that it does get funded in the first round, we will look at the second round conditions and determine whether or not it makes sense to put another application in.
Got it. Thank you. Other questions?
How do we find the conditions?
For the grant? Yeah, they publish those. So if you go to the Michigan Department of Education's website, you can see the different grants that they have available and what the conditions for those grants are. And I think if you just go to michigan.gov and go to the Department of Education, you'll see all of those different grants that are available. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Okay, up next for reports is our committee reports, starting with curriculum.
Yeah, so on February 16th, the Curriculum and Instruction Committee had a chance to get together. It was our first committee meeting with the new board members. So myself, Mr. Mike Ram, Kelly Freeridge, and Jared Folsom. And then we also had Rachel DeKuyper joining us and Sharon Wells. And so we had some good discussions with this being the first meeting, the first committee meeting for curriculum and instruction. Mike Graham went through the district library book selection and material review process, and he reviewed with us the book selection and material review procedures for the school libraries. And we talked about the Rockford Public Schools Materials Reconsideration Guide. And because there's been some discussions about some books that maybe some of the constituents feel should be reevaluated. And so we talked a little bit about that. We talked about how some teachers are starting to expand their school library or their classroom libraries at the high school level. And so, you know, he indicated that the literature structure is kind of going in a really positive direction. We also took a look at the district professional learning calendar, the draft. And so this would be the calendar that sets aside those days where there's an early release and the teachers and staff all get to have a chance to do some collaborative work together to kind of strengthen their lesson planning so that they can, deliver the content standards in the best way possible. So we also discussed a new Rockford High School advanced placement program. So every sophomore will have a chance to take an AP literature class. And so is it AP seminar? AP seminar. Yep. So this is something that all the sophomores would take, and so they would have, an opportunity to be able to take the AP exam, and it sounds like it will put students in a much better place in terms of building their confidence and developing their transcripts and getting them ready for college. And so it sounds like over the summer, the teachers who are going to be delivering this new AP seminar class, they're going to be doing some work on, collaboratively creating some tools that will be able to help them deliver that instruction. We also got to learn about the new 7th and 8th grade proposed ELA curriculum resource purchase proposal. And, it sounds like there was a pilot and, a lot of earlier this year, and a lot of the teachers, all of the teachers, it sounds like, were on board with some of this particular curriculum. And, it sounds like it's the consensus among everyone who is involved on deciding this curriculum is going to be the best one that's suited to allow students to meet the district's goals. So that item is actually on our agenda for later. And then we also talked about the new elementary instruction committee. So for the new elementary school, the Rockford Public Schools Cabinet will they'll form a committee with a chair that will they'll also have a representative with a certified teacher, a support staff member, and an elementary parent, and then also representatives from REA and RESPA, along with each of the 4 committees. And Mike Ram is going to be forming the instructional committee in March and focusing on the general instruction and STEAM and a lot of the newer outdoor learning programming that's planned for the new school.
Awesome. Thanks, Tricia. Questions for Tricia or Mike? Anything you wanted to?
No,
Yeah.
It was a strong open.
So, any questions for Tricia from the group? Okay. All right. Perfect. Thank you so much. Next, building and site also met last week. Nick.
That's me. Yeah, there are a number of items that we talked about that are on our agenda. I'm not going to go into those. You can do a deep dive, or you probably already have. So the first thing I'll talk about is the $4 million project for the addition at Roguewood. None of the things I'm going to talk about are necessarily new to the board. This in particular was talked about way back in 2018, 2019, along with Crestwood and Valley View, our bigger buildings. It's meeting 2 strategic goals there. Capacity at Roguewood, obviously it's a school within a school. It's one of our largest buildings. They're having trouble doing specials. So you could either eat lunch in there or you could have a special. So you could really, getting in there was difficult, especially for whole building type of activities. The second major goal is we get rid of 4 portables. Can I hear an amen to that? But that will come up to you guys later on, but shockingly, the initial estimates have actually come in less than the $4 million we budgeted for it. Next up, this is somewhat new, but it fits within the new elementary purchase. There's some additional land that we're working to get. If you've looked at the oversight view, there's a pond on site. We only owned 3/4 of it. So doing something with the pond or securing it it'll be a little bit easier if we purchase. It's about $200,000. It's not just that 1/4 of the pond. There's additional buffer space that we'll have from the neighbors. So all in all, you'll see that later, especially if Mr. Cuneo is successful in getting through, but it does fall within the purview of the 2019 bond for land acquisition for the new elementary. Last but not least, stadium noise mitigation. This has been up the board last 18 months. I think we talked about it twice. With the new stadium, we put in a new sound system, which is awesome. It's different sound systems, so it's a little bit more directionally operated. And again, it does operate during certain hours. It doesn't operate in the middle of the night. But there have been some obvious neighborhood contacts, shall we say. So this is an ongoing part of the study, and we'll have technicians on site and that sort of thing. But look forward for continuing updates on that. Right now, it's not like there's any major violations or anything, but if we do get a call during an event, we'll have a technician around to sort of see if there's something that can be tweaked or looked at. But that's it. The rest are on our agenda tonight.
Perfect. Questions for Nick? That's cool.
I do. I'm on the subcommittee. Who's chair?
That would be me. It's me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now
We had some 2 official documents. The most up to date had somebody else as the chair, so
Okay.
we sorted that out on Friday. Thank you. Questions for Mr. Cuneo?
All right, thanks, Nick. Human Resources.
Thank you.
Kelly.
Yeah, I'm the chair, and then Nick and Jake have joined me on this committee. We had a study session tonight earlier to discuss what is collective bargaining. We learned a lot. Thank you, Corey. So in this meeting, we also covered the collective bargaining calendar so that the district will continue to work to recruit and retain the best staff in Kent, in Michigan, and in the country, in my opinion. We also covered the number of staff that may be looking to retire or make other life changes this time. And we also discussed the 2 individuals in the packet tonight who have decided to move on. Does anyone have any additional questions for Corey? Excellent.
Yeah. Good. Thanks, Kelly. All right. That's it for committee reports. Next item is a CPR update. Dr. Matthews?
Thank you. As you know, the National Football League had a potential tragedy or tragic situation that occurred with Damar Hamlin, and so there has been some questions from the community about what we do in our district with CPR, and so we thought we'd have school nurses come in and talk to us about it, and I don't know if Mr. Ram has any kind of introductory comments.
I think you covered it. I think the only other thing would be that we had a really very successful big push again in our district on February 21st, which was kind of our all-staff professional learning day. And so that really gave us an opportunity to be timely in some of our responses too. So I'll introduce Kelly Feeker and Jennifer Collins, who are our district nurses. They're going to take you through our MERT team process. So you see the medical emergency response team, what that looks like in the district. You know, we want to make sure that we have building response teams in every building and situation, and that we also have routine that looks at examining our practices. And so they're going to talk with us a little bit about those teams, that maintenance, and then that CPR highlight that we've recently had. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. I'm Kelly. This is Jennifer. We're your district nurses, so thank you for having us here tonight to talk about this important subject. So obviously we have a medical emergency response team in our district, and each building has an individual team. So what is a MERT? That's our short term for it, is that medical emergency response team. Other schools may call it a cardiac emergency response team, but it really encompasses much more than just cardiac issues. It's voluntary staff who come forward, or people that we identify that we think would be a good fit, and they're trained to respond to those different types of emergencies. So why is it important? Injuries are the leading cause of death in disability in the United States, and the biggest portion of those suffering from injuries are actually school-aged children, which are very important to us. And then 20 to 40% of students have a chronic medical condition that could lead to an emergency, and that number has grown over the last years. You know, we have NICU babies who are now surviving and thriving in our schools, who maybe other, 10, 20 years ago wouldn't have survived at all. So we do have kids with a lot more complicated medical conditions that we love to support, and we love to, remove barriers for them and train our staff to be ready to respond to them. So training, it does involve quite a bit of training for our team members, and we do our training every other year in the fall. We gather as a whole group and we define what that team looks like, what the roles are, the different steps to take during an emergency, and we also talk about very specific emergencies for kids with seizures, asthma, allergies, diabetic concerns. Opioid overdoses is also another one that we address. Because our schools, we do carry both EpiPens and Narcan in every one of our buildings as a stock medication. We also have partnered with Spectrum Health Surgical Residents. They came in this past year and trained us on Stop the Bleed. So they brought in mannequin dummy limbs and trained us on how to pack wounds and how to use apply tourniquets. And that's a picture of a couple of our staff members participating in that training there. And then we recertify everybody so they're up to date on their CPR and their AED use every 2 years. And that is not just our team members on the MERT teams, but it's also our child care staff, our bus drivers, our coaches and teachers. And the coaches was in our PE staff were a big focus of our PD day. So for CPR and AEDs, the certification is good for every 2 years. So we, at this point, had certified 329 staff members in CPR and AED. The standard for Michigan to get a specific certification is about 10% of our staff, so we're way above our 10% mark. And this actually number, we've already hosted 2 more classes since making this slide. I did want to say thank you to Alicia Hopkins and Linda Rotenteller for their efforts in organization and making those classes happen. So yeah, CPR is also something that our 9th graders get exposed to as part of their health class. They don't get certified, but they certainly use those skills or learn those skills. And I think something that struck out to me when I was looking through different information on this is that 80% of those who are trained in CPR actually end up using those skills on a family member. So it's really not just something for our schools, but our community as a whole.
So MERT team, we have protocols in place. Like Kelly mentioned, we have a group of staff who either are volunteer to be on the MERT team, or we have staff that we think would be good and are asked to be on the MERT team. Some of the things MERT team people are responsible for, taking the AED to an emergency, notifying administration that there's an emergency in the building so that if 911 is called, there's communication throughout the district so that everyone knows what's going on. The staff in the front office will print out information regarding that student for emergency contact information. So we have certain things, everyone kind of knows what their duty is to make things run smoothly. We do drills twice a year, once in the fall, and we hope to do a spring, like a pop-up drill in the spring. Twice a year, so our scheduled one in the fall, and we put the dummy somewhere. We have a staff member find the dummy, and then we run through the MERT drill as if it was a real situation. We radio to the office, bring the AED, 911 is called. The whole thing is planned and done like it was a real scenario, and then we give feedback in real time. So we talk about it with the MERT team. What could we have done better? What, who forgot to do what? Things like that. So we always are trying to improve on that situation. Why is MERT drill important? Single leading predictor of outcome of cardiac arrest is time to defibrillation. So we always say time is brain. So the quicker that we can get that AED to whoever the victim is, the better. And heart safe, Kelly mentioned that just a little bit. Adam was a high school student, this was around 1999, a high school student in Wisconsin, I believe. He passed away during a basketball game to sudden cardiac arrest. After he passed away, his parents formed the Project Adam in an effort to bring awareness, training, and in an effort to get automatic defibrillators into schools. Had they had an automatic defibrillator there, it very well could have saved his life. All of our schools have defibrillators. Schools with multiple levels in them have one on each level. And we have
At least one on each level.
Yes, and we have AEDs at sporting events. You know, we are ready to go if something happens. Again, locations of the AEDs, clear signage. They're clearly marked. They're in every single building. They're checked for performance monthly. They have, you know, we check continuously for updates. We also track our pads to make sure that they are not expired. Written cardiac response plan is reviewed annually. Emergency communication code to verify, notify responders. Local emergency services. We go through this whole thing, like I mentioned earlier, in one cardiac drill, at least what we try to do 2 a year.
And that Heart Safe is something that we actually apply for with the state to say that we've met all of their checkpoints to say that our schools are ready for cardiac or any other type of emergency. Not all, a lot of schools don't have this, but at this point, all of our schools now qualify for that. We've applied for it. We're just waiting to hear back from the state, but there's no reason we won't be obtaining that certification for every single building. Any questions?
First of all, thank you for being our nurses. You're doing amazing work, and we're so grateful for you. But also, my comment is that my mother, who's an amazing teacher, is alive and with us today because of an AED. And it was in the building, like on the wall, easy to spot when she had her cardiac arrest, and she's here today because of it. And so thank you so much for this work. It's really important.
Yes, thank you.
We have a lot of after-school, like evening events, Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts, when we fill out our building use forms. Do we identify where those are for a group that might come in for the first time?
Yeah, so we have a like an emergency folder type situation that hangs on the walls that they can look up, you know, what did we do in a tornado, what did we do in an emergency, all those different things. And then our AEDs are all very clearly labeled to where to locate them, so they are certainly visible. I think we could improve our communication with our after-school staff that use those buildings, or not staff, volunteers or community members that use those buildings to potentially give them more information about that though.
Thanks.
Can I speak? Because I was given a microphone and I want to use it. I also appreciate you guys as nurses. My sister-in-law is a nurse, and I just spent the last month in a hospital with my mother. So I've had a lot of experience with nursing. But what I really wanted to say is when you guys started speaking about this, the preparedness, I started shaking, physically shaking, because I am so concerned about these COVID shots and what they've done. The VAERS report makes it very clear that myocarditis and pericarditis are a huge problem now. And the kids playing in sports, I mean, you've all seen the videos, I'm sure we've all seen the videos of what's happening. So yes, thank you very much. I appreciate all you do.
Any other questions? Comments? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, that's it for reports. We're into new business. First item up is the 23-24 draft calendar.
Thank you, Mr. Folsom. We come tonight with a draft calendar for the 23-24 school year, and I will let Ms. Corey Wilson Crawford kind of describe it for you, and then we would want the board to approve this, and if the board does approve it, we would then start the communication with our families in the district.
Yes, thank you. So Mike Ram and I worked with Tom Hosford at the high school and a leadership team from the Rockford Education Association to work on a calendar. The calendar that you have has some things on it that are different from what we have had in our previous calendars. So we have been engaging in professional development using the professional learning community model. And through that, we've determined that we have a need for a little bit more professional development time in our school calendar. And so you'll be able to see that we have increased a few of the whole days of student instruction and kind of changed them to half days so that our staff will have a more frequent opportunity to meet in the afternoon and discuss student learning. And we believe that using that PLC model will lead to increased student achievement across our district. Now you'll still find that we have 181 school days, and across all levels, DK through 12th grade, we exceed the required number of hours of instruction and days of instruction for students. So we're excited about this calendar. You will also see kind of an odd set of dates on our calendar. For example, the beginning of the school year would commence with staff on August 15th. That's pretty early from what we're accustomed to. It's just how the calendar falls this year. That does make our proposed first day with students August 21st. Also pretty early. Now, the next year, that shifts back. It's just how the calendar lays out, across. You'll also see in this proposed calendar that the last scheduled day for students is May 31st. So students would be done before the month of June. Again, we would reserve that first week of June for snow days in the case we have a year like no other, like we had a few years ago where we had like 16 or 17 days. But those days would only be used if we exceeded the state's articulated threshold. So all in all, our calendar aligns with the Kent ISD for the break periods as required by law, and provides some more professional development for our staff while still maintaining the number of student hours that we need for instructional time. And so I think we're pretty excited about the collaborative process that was used to develop this calendar, but also the opportunities that this calendar provides for both students and staff. And so I just want to make sure that I classified all of that right from an instructional perspective. So I don't know, Mr.
No, I think you did. I think we're trying to align all of the structures with our practices, and this has been a calendar that, we talked a lot with the group about, that our district is growing into and understands why. That there's great belief in the collaborative process, and aligning that process in this calendar supports that during the instructional day. And again, it's maybe an add-on to what we are currently doing as opposed to something new, which we feel has been working quite well.
So, if the board has questions, you can direct them to Ms. Wilson Crawford or Mr. Rand. If the board doesn't have questions, we would ask that the board approve this so that we can then move this forward.
Yep, so look for a motion. Question?
I just have one question.
Yeah.
I can wait till after the motion in a second if you wish.
Questions now is fine.
You touched on it, but I just want to make it loud and clear. We're in sync on breaks with the county.
That's correct.
And that's what we do, and that's what we're supposed to do.
Yes.
And then I want to thank you for adjusting the half-day hours to include the lunches. That was the sentence in there that meant more than just about anything else in the board packet this time. It called out to me for some reason, but thank you for that. That small adjustment, I think, makes a big difference for a large number of families. So thank you.
Other questions?
No, I want to move to approve.
Kelly moves.
Support.
Support, Nick. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Okay. Motion carries. Calendar approved. On to the next item, our 2023 summer paving projects.
And I will turn to Mr. Cuneo, who has the next several items here, but we will start with summer paving project.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. I just want to let the Board of Education know that hopefully this is the last of me basically monopolizing the new business. Another thing, because we have a number of projects that are coming to be, and also we pretty much reach our fill here for the next year and a half in terms of what we can handle throughout the district. I do want to let everybody know there's a number, as I've been presenting this information, there's been a number of people who come to me and said, hey, there's some really serious dollars that are going out here. Why don't you utilize those for staff retention and increases, that sort of stuff? Just as a reminder to the board, the bond issue that we had in 2019, along with the building and site issue, cannot be used for operational benefits, wages, that sort of stuff. That is a separate fund that we ultimately have to keep separate. The citizens of Rockford had voted on them under the scope that we had basically advertised to them for the vote. It was a successful vote, and we have to honor that piece of it. We can't commingle those funds by law, okay? So you'll see a number of different dollar amounts that are floating around. They are significant, but it's all under the scope of the bond itself. I have with me Sean Hayward, who is our Director of Operations, who's going to help me with some of these different line items, and also Carl Vanderzee, who's with Communication by Design, our tech consultant, that will help me with some of these different items too. I'm just the money person, they are the experts. But nonetheless, the summer paving projects, finally getting to that, Dr. Matthews, included in the scope of the 2019 bond are basically replacing, over a period of time, over 10 years, the basically the parking lots that we have throughout the district and stuff. This is the second in the series that we have brought to you. Last summer, I forget, we did Lakes, and there was one other one, Cannonsburg we did. Now this time we are looking at bringing Belmont Elementary, Meadow Ridge Elementary, and a portion of Rockford High School. I'll let Sean Hayward kind of summarize the scope of it. I don't have a picture of it.
Okay. We have gone through and we've done a survey of all the parking lots and kind of put a time frame on getting them done. One of the areas that we're going to be doing now is, like Mike had mentioned, is the part of the high school parking lot. We call it the third-party testing area, which is basically the parent drop-off for the freshman center. So it's the kind of the middle of the bank of parking lots between the freshman center and the stadium. That one is getting redone. And then Meadow Ridge, that will encompass pretty much everything that's hard surface that is not cement. So anything that's paved on the parking or in the playground will be redone. The driveway itself will be widened a little bit to accommodate kind of 3 lanes. So we have outgoing, incoming, and allowing for the buses to get up in between during parent pickup and drop off time. And then the next one is Belmont Elementary, and that will encompass again all of the hard surface areas, both the pavement area on the playground as well as all of the parking area in front and to the side where the parent pickup and drop off are.
So you can see the bid tabulation that's in your board packet. The recommendation is to go with the earthwork for Fisher Ideman Excavating and asphalt paving with Reeve Riley Construction for a total dollar amount of $1,226,848. And again, that'll be taken out of the 2019 bond issue.
So we would bring that to the board for approval this evening. We would ask that you make a motion and second, and then if you have additional questions, Mr. Cuneo or Mr. Hayward can answer them.
Start with the motion.
So moved.
Tricia moved.
Support.
Chris support. Other discussion or questions for Mr. Cuneo? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Okay, motion carries.
Next item is classroom technology upgrades. Mr. Cuneo.
Yeah, so the last month, so let me back up. So the part of the 2019 bond issue is a whole furniture replacement initiative, okay? Last board meeting, Corey and Mike Graham had talked about the pilots that had been put into place, and now we're getting ready to do some of the implementation at specifically Belmont and Meadow Ridge for furniture. Now I'm going to get to the technology. So in tying in with that furniture is also part of the 2019 bond issue, is replacing or enhancing the technology that's involved, okay? So the proposal that we'll bring to you tonight is basically the bid for upgrading the Belmont and Meadow Ridge classroom technology, and I have Carl Vandersee here to talk a little bit more about the specifics of what we're looking at from a classroom perspective.
Great, thanks Mike. So as was mentioned, it's really for the 2 elementaries to support the new furniture that's going to be proposed for those classrooms. Some of the objectives of that new furniture are to allow instructors to have a little more flexibility in terms of location and movement in the classrooms. Our current technology that was installed approximately 7 years ago has some cables and wiring associated with being able to project for students to be able to see and for staff members to be able to present information to them. So what we're doing to be able to accommodate the new furniture is putting in some new wireless capabilities so that staff members will be able to move about the room. Students will be able to connect wirelessly with the right security protocols in place to reduce the possibility of hijacking the projector and some of those kinds of things. And then also upgrading the projectors to be much brighter projectors. So we're suggesting moving to laser projectors that are many times brighter than the old bulb style projectors that were installed about, again, 7 years ago. So we're within the budgeted amount for those classrooms and within the bond project, as Mr. Cunio had mentioned a little bit earlier, and just moving forward with the first two to support the furnishings, and then would be moving forward and coming back to you with bids in the future for the rest of the buildings as it's appropriate. We did receive 6 bids. We are recommending the low bid of the 6 bids. We've done, in the document you'll see in the packet, we've done the due diligence to verify, make sure that everything's included in that low bid. It is a local contractor who has been used in the district for technology projects in the past. I want to just point out also in the packet that on the bottom, there's a mistake on your document. The bid tabulation and the top of the document does have the correct number. The low bid is $276,176, but in the suggested board motion in the bottom, we missed the 2. So it looks like, oh, we're getting a $200,000 deal on this, but that's not quite the case.
So the recommendation is for the board to approve $276,176 to Hilliard Electric.
That's correct.
I had a question about, is the chip shortage impacting these pieces as well? Like, are we anticipating that they're going to be here soon, or like some future time?
Great question. Yes, the chip shortage has impacted projectors, the wireless transmitters, and the things that we're using. And that's why we're bringing it to you now in March for summer installation. So we're in that game of being a little bit earlier. Normally, we would probably come to you in a late April or May timeframe for this kind of a project. So we're doing it a little quicker.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a motion? I'll move. Jake moves.
I'll support.
I saw Christy.
Oh, Christy first.
Christy support. Any other discussion?
I got my projector 5 months faster, if that means anything.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Okay. Flooring, new elementary flooring.
Mr. Cunio, new elementary flooring.
So a bunch of things today. So I show you a 2-dimensional schematic of essentially the elementary layout. The actual building itself is highlighted in orange here. Okay. Some of you have seen this before, but one of the things that we have to do, and we had provided allowance for when we actually bid it out, the new elementary school that's currently being built, are allowances for flooring. And I'll have Sean talk about this a little bit, but what we did was we separated out the building into 4 different areas. One area being the lower L, essentially K1, DK1, the middle portion, which is essentially the Learning Commons or Media Center and the entranceway, office area. Then we have classes or grades K through 3, and then classes 4 through 5. And there's different pieces with each one, so I'll have you kind of summarize what we're looking at.
Okay. As Mr. Cunio had mentioned, we have them designated on your board pack as Unit A, B, C, and D. Each wing is, like he was saying, there's different grade levels. Each wing has a different color, different style. One of them is a pond, one of them is dunes, one of them is,
Wetlands.
Lakes. And lakes.
Yep.
With that, there's different colors and different patterns in all the carpet. So therefore, we had to split up the proposals with the different colors and different patterns for that. So that's what it indicates on your board pack is A, B, C, and D. The main body of the building will be polished concrete, and then the educational wings will have the carpet in it.
So we're utilizing, again, we have the ability to utilize through board policy on purchasing consortiums. We are looking at utilizing TARCAT with this is through the Kent ISD purchase consortium. So again, this would be out of the 2019 bond to support the new elementary for a dollar amount of $360,951.03.
To ask the board to approve that this evening. Motion and a second, and if you have additional questions, you can ask Mr. Coons.
I move.
Christy moves.
I'll second.
Kelly support. Any other questions or discussion? Nope. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Okay, we're good.
Mr. Cuneo, new elementary network equipment.
So one of the things that, again, tying in with the new elementary, making sure that we get everything online, are new switches that have to come into play. That is similar to what we have at other schools, and I'll let Mr. Vanderzee talk about that briefly.
Great. Thank you again. For this particular project, we are in a little bit of a time consideration, partly because of the Federal Universal Service Fund program. So the district gets reimbursement for qualified purchases. So we're trying to make sure that we maximize the tax dollars here, and we buy these things within the windows that we can get reimbursements from this federal program. We've been very successful with that over the last several years. We have a little bit of an allocation left for the current year, and we'd like to use that. So we went ahead and bid this project now in order to fit into the time frame and the allocated dollars that exist. It's a little bit ahead of when we need the equipment. If we ordered it just when we needed it, we would be outside the window of being able to get federal reimbursement dollars, which are about half of the monies that we're asking for approval on. And so it makes perfect sense to do it at this point. We did receive 2 bids for the network switching part of the project and 3 bids for the uninterruptible power supplies that ensure that the equipment stays up and running in the event of a power outage until generators can kick in. So we are recommending, again, the low bid in both categories. It is, again, a vendor that has been used at different points in the past in Rockford, and the technology review team finds them to be very satisfactory in their performance over the many projects they've done for us over the last many years.
So the recommendation will be for Sentinel Technologies in the amount of $200,546.76. Again, out of the 2019 bond issue.
So we'd ask for a motion and a second, and then if you have additional questions, Mr. Cuneo, I'm sure can answer.
I'll move the most glamorous item on our agenda.
I will second that item. By Nick, second by Jake. Any other questions or discussion?
You know, I am asked, why do we have a consultant keeping track of all these windows for the various consortiums and buying in the opportunities we have to save money? It's well worth having folks like Carl around for all these years. Plus, you know us better than we know ourselves at times. So I know it can be awkward at some juncture for people to see that we have consultants. But the fact of the matter is, I've seen it over my time that we've saved countless dollars by being able to keep track of this and allowing Mr. Cuneo to focus on some of the more important internal items that we really need to focus on. So I just want to say that because I know many of you might be wondering. I've had one board member ask me that, one new board member, so I just want to make sure I said that out loud.
Thanks. Anything else? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Okay. Motion carries.
And we move to the last item of Mr. Cuneo's presentations tonight, and perhaps the most important for the families at the new elementary, the playground equipment.
So I appreciate that, Dr. Matthews. I'll equate playground equipment to me picking out furniture in my house, whereas I rely on experts to do that. I don't have a kid in the race anymore, or kids in the race. So there's a team that had been pulled together to talk about playground equipment and stuff. Okay, and what I want to do is I want to just focus real quickly. We're going to focus on 2 areas. You're going to see where it says lower elementary playground and upper elementary playground. Again, the way that the layout is being designed is, as you can see up here, proposed, that should say actually K1 playground, and then you have essentially 2 through 5 playground there with the upper L here. I did review this with Building and Site, but this gives you, this is what we're looking at in terms of a layout for the lower elementary, the lower L, okay? The best I can describe that the committee came up with is they were looking at playground equipment that accomplishes 2 things. That is there's ADA compliancy within some of the different apparatuses, but not so much so that it takes away from the experience from other students or kiddos as well. Because anytime that you do one or the other, there's a sacrifice of height over accessibility and vice versa. So the committee wanted to pull together something that actually was basically a hybrid at each of the different levels. So this is the new elementary, the lower playground. Now you notice at the bottom of there, it says option 6. There was a lot of options, obviously, that the group had gone through, and this is what they settled upon. I'm not going to go through each individual apparatus that was discussed a little more in detail. It is in your board packet at the building and site level. And then also, if you look at the upper L, this is the same concept, but for upper L kids. Okay? Obviously, it's a little bit bigger. You have older students, bigger students, what have you. But the same concept of trying to provide that sort of experience of some ADA compliancy without more of a hybrid type situation of also providing an experience for those who don't require some of the different accesses and stuff. So you can see some of the different apparatuses that are out there. The playground size and the surfaces are similar in size to what we have with the other elementaries that we have. So it will have that, what you see in the coloration here are the different, that will actually be more of a rubberized type surface, similar to what we have at the other playgrounds. And just so you know, I'll be coming to the board at a future date replacing those particular playground surfaces and some of the equipment as well. That's also been built in the 2019 bond. So, but just so you know, the idea is to build something that is equivalent to what we see in some of the other elementaries, or all the elementaries throughout the district. So with that, we, say it again?
The solid color.
The solid color. And actually we're looking at a solid color, not the multicolor that's in here. But just so everybody knows, to be, again, consistent with what's going on with the other buildings. So again, these are all in your board packet. I'm not going to go through individually what some of the different apparatuses are, but we are actually going to be utilizing Purchase Consortium My Deal, which is actually through Game Time in the amount of $690. So the cost of the two playgrounds, along with the equipment and the excavation and the rubbers, and I would say the rubber surface, is $699,419.94 to be taken out of the 2019 bond issue.
So we ask for the board to have a motion and a second, and then if you have additional questions, Mr. Cuneo can answer those.
Christie, I'll support. Just I haven't yet tonight, so I thought I'd get one in there. Any other questions or discussion?
The same question I always have about playground equipment, which is, did we show these plans to anyone under 12?
That's a
yeah, we did. That was part of this. We worked with elementary principals and their thinking, right? And so that was kind of that next group. So to Mike's point, you know, he and I would have failed. Okay. But we do know the people. And we're confident.
I'm the committee chair. Does that count? And I will note that this one was with the State of Michigan Consortium, so there's another avenue. So, you know, when you're on the building and site, you hear this all the time, but we've checked off all the boxes tonight.
Yeah. Other questions, comments? Okay, in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say no. Okay, all set.
The last piece of new business this evening is Mr. Ram and an ELA adoption for grades 7 and 8.
Thank you. As mentioned before in committee, and really you've seen through the process before, and what I brought to you specifically last year, when we think about our overall, you know, most important goal, it is to ensure that all students learn at a high level. And we understand that, and we talked about, and Larry mentioned even today, you know, we can't chase a test score and expect that all of a sudden that's going to make a meaningful difference, or we're going to be able to do that with effectiveness, but we can think about the strength of our system. And so we have some common values in our system around teaching and learning. And we are in this process of looking at where are our strength and where are our need areas. And so last year I came to you and I said, you know, there's opportunity for increased student learning in secondary math and in middle school English language arts. And I showed you our state assessment scores, and I showed you our NWA scores, and there was also some opportunity in specifically the upper elementary reading and literacy scores. So last year, beginning in November, we began forming some teams around elementary literacy and middle school literacy and secondary math, we used a district-adopted process. I brought to you curriculum resource revision. Also, you'll notice that when I brought the winter NWA scores to you, in each of those areas, our elementary reading, our 6th grade literacy, and secondary math, we had increased student learning across the board. So that then shows, well, where's our next need area? And our next need area in our district was 7th and 8th grade English language arts. And so we we followed a similar process this year. We have a belief that I wrote about. It's called a guaranteed and viable curriculum that we're working towards. We believe that every single student, no matter their teacher that's in the same course or grade, should have the same learning outcomes. So how do you do that? You tighten a system. You ensure that the content standards determined by the state of Michigan, Common Core State Standard, are very effectively followed. You support teachers with professional learning. You reflect and adjust. So this year, we followed the same path that we have in the past. And we had a student learning need. We formed a team of teachers, of instructional coaches, our district literacy director, myself, and we investigated resources. In your packet, I laid out some of the processes with you, for you. And we vetted different resources. We determined our criteria through the rubric that's included in the packet for you as well, and how we would be doing some of the selecting and building consensus around that, and have had a great result. Our district understands the process, is thorough. It is about inquiry. It's about collecting data, reflecting, bringing people to the table, anticipating, what are the strengths and what are some of the touch-up areas that we're going to have to be. And so I feel like we have made a very strong recommendation to you based on our learning needs and based on the process that we've used. And so with that said, I bring that proposal to you. You notice that it's a 6-year proposal included in your packet for the tune of $623.29. That is a one-time cost. Included in that packet are the contents of the purchase costs, which include print and online access as well. It's one of the cool things about some of the new products that are out there is they evolve over time as well. And so, you get feedback on certain pieces, or a learning need is needed to be tweaked. It's much better than a static book that you buy that is that way until you leave it. These are dynamic resources, and our teachers are given the great tools. Our teachers have great skill and motivation, and we want to give them the tools the best possible way that we can so our students can learn. That's what the proposal is about today.
So, Mr. Ram, could you just describe a little bit for the board and the community, the committee that you formed?
Sure.
Who was on the committee?
Myself, our Director of Literacy, Sharon Wells. We have 2 middle school instructional coaches. And then we have what we call AET members, which are department leader that are teachers. So we had 2 of those. And then we piloted in every single classroom, every single 7th and 8th grade classroom, 1 of 2 resources, with the exception of one, and that teacher was managing a personal issue that didn't allow her to pilot. And then after we brought all of those people back together to get their feedback, then as a leadership team, listened to the feedback, used our rubrics, and then made a consensus building decision. And I will be honest with you, it was a unanimous decision, if I can be even more transparent in that.
So we come tonight, we'd ask for a motion and a second, and then the questions for Mr. Ram.
Can we have discussion first, please?
We need motion first and second,
Okay.
then we'll discuss.
I move.
Moved by Kelly, support?
I'll second.
Jake? Okay. Questions or discussion?
Yeah, I have a few questions and some comments. I'm a little bit confused because the email that I got from you says that you were going to meet to decide which of these 2 curriculum you're going to decide upon. So are we voting on one?
Good question. So for clarity's sake, back in November, we reviewed many different resources. We chose 2 to pilot throughout the process. The committee has made a consensus decision to move 1 forward to today's meeting, which is HMH into literature.
Okay, so we have to vote on HMH, so, because we weren't even sure up until this moment which of the two we were voting on.
I took that through committee, and so I apologize if there was some lack of clarity. I hope you understand now.
I'm starting to understand, but I'm still really confused when you say you took it to committee. Okay, so here's why I really want to start it. For transparency, I want people to understand that we as a board only meet once a month. Everything is done in subcommittees of 3. I am not on the subcommittee of curriculum. So the subcommittee met on February 16th, along with Mr. Ram and a few other people. So it was Tricia Anderson, Kelly Friedrich, Jared Folsom, Mike Ram, and in attendance but not there for the entire meeting were Rachel DeKuyper, Sharon Wells, and Tracy Ignatiak. So I'm being asked to vote right now on one curriculum for $300,000 that I literally just found out the name of that curriculum. I didn't know anything about this until I got the email on February 16th, which says that on February 13th, you all would get together to make a decision of which of these 2 curriculums you were going to have us vote on. So I want to make that really clear. So when I got this email from you, I realized I needed to do some homework because I don't know anything about these 2 curriculums and they're products. They're essentially products that we buy that we're going to put our 7th and 8th graders through. So how do I do the research? And I decided, first of all, I have to do this pretty quickly because I only have 18 days to do the research, and I don't even know which of these curriculums I'm researching. So I set out to find reviews for both of these curriculums. And how did I set out to find reviews? I put out emails, texts to teachers that I know in the United States, teachers that I know locally, parents, and based on the reviews, I'm very concerned about both of these. I first want to focus on the teacher feedback from my perspective in literature, which is not the one that we're actually voting on, but I might as well give you all the homework I found. The majority of the teacher feedback agree that the grammar program was very weak and needed major remediation to address the grammar needs of the students. Because of this, grammar instruction was inconsistent because different classrooms focused on different skills since each teacher supplemented grammar skills differently. In addition, the consensus of teachers using the program stated that it was full of woke nonsense. One example of this is Unit 4 in the 7th grade curriculum. The first passage is Noble Speech by Al Gore, and I have the link if you guys want to see the speech. This passage is presented as nonfiction. This speech was presented December 11th, 2007, but history has not been kind to the validity of Mr. Gore's words. The ice caps have not melted in the North Pole. Residents in the Arctic and Pacific Islands have not left their homes because of mass flooding. New York City is not underwater, and global warming has not made our Earth uninhabitable.
Barb, real quick, do you mind citing the source of?
Pardon?
Citing the source.
My source are reviews that I got. These
from
are
where?
These are from teachers. These are from parents. This is not a source. These are people's. These are reviews. We all use reviews
from participants.
Websites. These are the opinions.
So
of people.
do you know what websites those came from?
No, they're not websites. They're opinions.
You just said they were websites that you got those opinions from?
No, I didn't say they were websites. If I said that, I misspoke.
Yeah, okay. So where did you get those from?
I got these from opinions from teachers.
From teachers at Rockford?
No.
Teachers that vetted the program?
If you let me finish.
Okay.
Okay.
But I'm sorry to interrupt. We don't have unlimited time, so this is a time for questions. I want to make sure that if others have.
We're voting to spend $300,000 to put a curriculum in front of our 7th and 8th graders, and you don't think it's enough? You don't think it's worth our time to have a debate about whether this is really the appropriate thing to do?
I would maybe jump in there though and say, as Mr. Ram said, we've been vetting this program since November of last year. We've run a pilot.
I didn't know anything about it
That's
until
because
5
you're
days ago.
new on the board.
Do the research.
It's not up to me to do the research.
One second.
One at a time, please.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, we've been vetting it since November, and I think it's good to do our homework and try to figure out kind of where things are coming from, but we're also supposed to be a governing body. And so I got to trust the process of the professionals have gone through to vet these programs out, several different programs, run them through a pilot test, and then we've divided up into committees because there's a lot to move forward. So I guess I have to trust my other board members who are I'm working in partnership with, and that if I had any questions, I can talk to Mr. Ram about it, either before this process or after. So you got it a few number of days ago. You could reach out to Mike and.
Oh, I have.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we've had a conversation.
I'm going to recognize Christy. She has something she'd like to contribute.
For transparency purposes, it looks like when we did measure and we went through this whole packet that you sent to us, Mr. Ram, it looks like the teachers and support staff overwhelmingly ranked this curriculum on a number of things, just so that we can be transparent. But some of the really important things for these kids are the online learning platform so that they can access these programs when they're at home and when they're at school. Also, I think that the fluency piece that we really needed to work on with those kids, they're ranked at like a 4.5 on a scale of 5. So when there was like 20 items that seemed really important to creating and giving our kids very intense and rigorous curriculum, when they went through these and looked at vertical alignment, so what are we learning in 6th grade and how is it going to help us move forward to become more successful as we get older? All of these things in this curriculum packet, I mean, the average rating was 4.61666667. I mean, so there was 20 different things that they were really rating on, and overwhelmingly this group of our most trusted leaders.
Who are these people?
Sure. Well,
there are our professional staff, our director of literacy, Mr. Ram, the assistant superintendent for curriculum, teachers who teach in grades 7 and 8. And so they used the curriculum within their classroom. They reviewed the readings that were within the material that was within the curriculum. And so it was our teachers who used the curriculum, examined the resources that were within that curriculum, and they came back to the committee, the curriculum committee, with a recommendation to move this forward, and that's what Mr. Ram has brought here this evening.
I'd also like to recognize I'm not on that committee either, but the research was very comprehensive here. But the most important thing to me as a parent and maybe for community members was that our scores for a district showed that our 7th and 8th graders were trending down with the other state, with other schools in our area, which really meant that there was an area for improvement for us.
Who brought the programs in that allowed them to trend down? Was that the same process that was used for this?
I don't think that's really what I'm trying to say, though. What I'm really trying to say is that our job really is, what our number one job is school board member is to make sure that our kids get a rigorous education.
Hang on. So I want to make sure others have had an opportunity. So from my perspective, based on the information we got in the most recent committee meeting as well as in prior full board meetings, we have a very robust process where the folks that Mr. Ram mentioned multiple times are seasoned education professionals, including teachers, put this through a robust process to look at good resources, narrow it down from a longer list of options to the 2 that they thought had the most potential, to actually test those with kids in classrooms, gather feedback, and reach consensus. So we have to trust that process and the outcome of that process. If we have questions and concerns, we should ask, and we have, and those questions have been answered, and I appreciate that support. And that through that collaborative process, not something that just came up tonight, something that's been in the works for months. So I'm comfortable voting in support of the motion to approve the curriculum. If anybody else has not yet had a chance to speak and would like to, I'd recognize those folks.
I'd like to say that my student took the pilot in 7th grade at East last year incredibly successfully. We were delighted with the outcome of his 7th grade English education.
But the numbers are showing that as well. Like, did we just measure, right?
Correct.
We saw since we've implemented this pilot project that our numbers
objectively, we've seen improvements in student learning based on the moves that we made strategically to adopt resources, align our system, and so forth.
It's the fact, focusing on the facts, I think takes out.
We have a track record.
Our track records.
We have a track record of this robust process generating good outcomes.
That's accurate.
So part of the process is that the board as a governing board wants to ensure that Mr. Ram in his curriculum office have a process for going through curriculum, so that they have a systematic way of evaluating what is good for our students and what is not good for our students. And so my responsibility is to ensure that Mr. Ram understands that his responsibility is to develop a process that we can stand behind, and then we will come to the board with a recommendation. You as the governing board, your responsibility is to make sure that the educators in the system have a system for developing a recommendation, and that's what we have. We believe that the people who have been hired, who have been trained and hired to work in our district, have the skill and knowledge that they need to be effective. And so we're trusting that those people would bring a recommendation to the board that would be met with approval. But more importantly, we're asking you to evaluate whether the process was appropriate. And from my perspective, the process that Mr. Ram went through, the information that he shared with the board demonstrates that the process was robust, and that these curriculum, one of them rose to the top and is the one that they would bring for a recommendation this evening.
Well, in my opinion, the robust process, if it brings forth crap, then it's not a very good process.
Well, I would argue that what Mr. Ram is recommending is not that. Mr. Ram is recommending a process that the Ed Reports, which is a nationwide system of evaluating curriculum, rates this curriculum very highly. They rate this curriculum as one that will be effective in classrooms, and that it is not a curriculum that, as you said, is crap. And in fact, it is a curriculum that is robust and meaningful and meets the needs of our students. And so I would argue that what you're suggesting is not at all accurate, that what Mr. Ram has produced for us tonight for you to vote on is a curriculum that will meet the needs of our students, and that will, in fact, ensure that our students continue to develop the skills and knowledge that they need to go from 7th to 8th grade and into high school and be successful.
Would you like to hear some of the local
No,
feedback?
I'm going to move
not
that
really.
I'm going to move that we end debate. I'm going to move
You
that
can
we
pass
end
it
debate.
along, but I mean, this is,
I don't want my one comment to be that it's not up to you to do the research. I just want to reiterate, and I didn't mean to come off so harsh, but it's almost insulting to the professionals that are in our district who have tested this out in the classroom with our students, and there's a unanimous decision for supporting this curriculum for our ELA in 7th and 8th grade. And so, you know, I would echo everything that everybody else has said here. And, you know, I am so thankful that our teachers and administrators and folks who are the professionals in selecting curriculum are not relying on a review that they found on the internet or a few anecdotes from teachers from throughout the country.
We are the
But their
board.
but their
We're
education.
the board, and you're letting the administration run all over you.
Mr. Chairman, what's the question?
Christie moves the question.
I support.
Support. We're going to move to vote. All in favor of approving the recommendation for the ELA curriculum adoption, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no.
No.
All right, that's our last agenda item under new business. We did have 5 people sign up for public comment tonight. We'll get our timer set.
This is from one of the people presenting tonight.
And up first is Brenda Woodars.
This is from one of the people presenting.
Wow, that was fun. I love the fact that the superintendent mentioned good or not good for the students, when Mike Graham is responsible for some of the books showing how to get oral sex from elementary on up. So it's really good or not good for the students as to who has been on these committees, because without God, there is no moral compass. So we are not sure the people that are on these committees are vetted in our way. You know, I'm accountable to God as a parent, and I have a child left in the school system. So I thank God that He gave me the gift of discernment to do my homework, to vet people like you and Ms. Zoko, who put the books in the library and not only are doing the curriculum. So thank you so much for doing your research on that. And yeah, it depends on who's on the committee, just like the lobbyists and the pharma's going on. But we're talking about health of our students.
I've talked about immune health, I've talked about glyphosates, GMO, I've talked about mental health, and you guys have never ever brought anybody in for any of these. Now I'm going to talk about EMFs. EMF 5G, the second on the list for causal factors of autism. How many of you guys researched that? Bring someone in. Study Bev Rubik. She has spoken before Congress, been on the committee. But wireless includes smart meters, tablets, cordless phones, towers, and of course, don't forget, we're handing these out to our children. We want to talk about mental health and side effects, heart palpitations. Even adults, you can't figure out why your heart might be having palpitations? Check to see if you're on your computer a lot. Don't hold that to your ear. Go on airplane mode. These are all side effects. Immune system, headache, dizziness, blood flow, brain metabolism, increased cancer, DNA damage, mutation, infertility, neuro disorders, increased oxidative stress, and it depletes your glutathione, which is your master antioxidant of your system. These guidelines, we have 29 towers in a 3-mile radius of our high school and 72 antennas. I want to know who is getting the money for renting out that spot on the football field. Legal does not mean safe. Legal does not mean safe. The FCC sets guidelines for that with 6-member panels who are engineers and executives, and not one of them on the board is a healthcare scientist or physician. And that goes along with our EWG standards, which all you guys should know what EWG is too if you care about our kids. We have over four contaminants once again on the site. Legal does not mean safe. All of these carcinogens are 12 times higher, 14 times higher, 286 times higher that are in our water system. So you want to talk about health and safety, and thank you for the AEDs coming in, because we've all seen the hundreds of thousands of kids from infants and up dropping of cardiac events the last 2 years.
Up next is Katina Giroux.
It's hard for me to believe that it's been almost 20 years since we started in Rockford Public Schools. And our oldest two are in their 20s, and it was an incredible experience. It was a blessing to be part of the school district. But trust has been broken. And the recent thing that blew my mind was who had the bright idea to put a huge display outside of the library with all the books that every person has talked to you guys about over the last year and a half, and put a big sign up telling these kids, these books have been questioned by your parents, by your grandparents, but you have every right to read these books. We got them for you. That was so damning to every parent and grandparent in the school district that has contacted you guys. It disgusted me. What were the terms you guys just used? Are robust and are experts. That's bullcrap.
Okay, up next is Craig Ladyman. Is Craig here?
I'm here. Thank you very much. I'd like to say thank you for nearly 6,215 voters that voted for me in the last election. Thank you very much. I appreciate your support. I'm assuming next election there's probably going to be more support for that. And it's not only just a vote for me. I think it's a big vote for just say no to woke education. Okay, it's being taken over. It's almost like a cult. We got it at the school, we got it at the church, we got it at the media, we got it at our corporations, and it's almost as if everybody decided to buy into this complete garbage. And they've done so under the guise of an emergency, right? We use this emergency, which is obviously a fraud, and it's coming out that it's more and more of a fraud. And so we're going ahead and passing all these bills, and passing all this legislation, passing all this stuff that nobody has voted for. No one's sitting here standing up saying, I want to have books in here that describe dick sucking or fisting or whatever it is. I mean, that is disgusting, folks. And you don't even have a little page in there to say brush your teeth after that or wash your hands. Where's the American Dental Society on these things, right? Unfortunately, We have to deal with these things. I'm not really impressed with the information age or the intelligence that has developed here in this century. We've actually gotten a lot dumber, that's for sure. But one thing we can do to actually correct this is actually get local involvement, right? We need to actually take back our local governments from this woke ideology. They spend a ton of money, folks, on the Board of Education. I spent $1,800 of my own money. I know Barb spent 10 grand of her own. But guess what? The Democrats, boy, they had all kinds of dough. They had 3 different mailers that came to my house. And you know how expensive those mailers are to go out to every single one of them? That's about 60 grand. 60 grand for a school seat. The reason why you're having so much resistance is because it's never been voted on. You decided to ram this whole agenda through, and it's being done on county level, state level, nationwide, worldwide. But people are standing up to this now, and you're going to have to come to a day of reckoning. You're taking and having me sign up 5 hours before to have a comment section is ridiculous. It goes against Michigan MCL 38.10, which basically says, it is the natural fundamental rights of the parents and legal guardians to determine and direct the care, teaching, and education of their children. The public schools of this state serve the needs of the pupils and cooperate with the pupils' parents and legal guardians to develop the pupils' intellectual capabilities, vocal skills, in a safe, positive environment. It doesn't say that 3 of you from this board go ahead and have a curriculum decided on for this whole community in their school and how it's going to affect their kids in the long term. Forest Hill Central, folks, doesn't have me have to sign up, and they actually have a parents' curriculum board that actually comes in and works with the community. They're not working with you people at all. They're keeping you out of the dust. You're being a bunch of cucks to a bunch of woke idiots.
Up next is Charles Kurtz.
Yes, good evening. I'm getting to understand in all reality that transgenderism is really an assault on women and girls.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm very concerned about it. Embracing transgender ideology, as this board seems to be doing, that men can become women and women can become men merely by imagination, is not only anti-science, anti-God, anti-common sense, but also anti-woman. The outgrowth of transgenderism is actually playing out as a war on women and womanhood, girls and girlhood. And at its very core, it is sexist and discriminatory. Now, according to woke-think, men can even have babies and fully replace the need for women altogether. This flawed thinking leads to school policies that are dangerous and discriminating, that denies women their inherent rights. Allowing transgender biological boys with male genitalia to masquerade as females eliminates the right girls deserve to privacy in their own protected space in bathrooms and locker rooms. This is not only dangerous, but subjects you as a board to serious liability. If someone's child is molested by a transgender boy in a space designed for girls only, you can be guaranteed of a lawsuit. It also denies girls the right to success, especially on the athletic field, as they can be forced to compete against boys with obvious physiological advantages. This is unjust and so contrary to true feminism, which liberates girls to compete on a fair playing field. Finally, and most critically, it denies girls the God-given right to their own identity. They are no longer treated uniquely special as girls. When you give a transgender male, biological male, who imagines he is a female, the same rights and privileges as an actual biological female, this is sexual discrimination at its worst. Men taking for themselves what belongs uniquely to women, their identity. The evidence of this is everywhere, but nowhere more obvious than Jill Biden recently handing out the Woman of Courage Award to a biological male on International Women's Day. It was a demeaning, insulting gesture, stealing this award from a true woman of courage. Is there anyone here who actually believes that transgender biological boys should be able to roam freely in girls' spaces and compete on girls' athletic teams? That clearly would be a terrible policy resulting from a flawed ideology. On the other hand, how many of you here will stand up with me to give this board a message that no way should this be acceptable in Rockford Public Schools? Do you stand up with me? I beg you to wake up from your woke slumber to see the dangerous reality you may be exposing young girls to under the illusion you are promoting equity. Please protect our girls by putting policy in place to stop this nonsense and war on children.
Good job, Charlie. Good job, buddy.
Chris Crandall.
I have a handout. There's some for the, you can Google this if you want. I'm finished.
Start talking, Christie, start talking.
4 + 1 = 5, right? That is a fact, and teachers are expected to correct students if they're wrong. Imagine a child insisting that 4 + 1 = 7. How does the teacher respond to that? So a child born with a penis is a boy. This is a biological fact. Where teachers would have pointed out the obvious truth in my day, some today right here in Rockford feel the need to discuss sexuality, invite doubt, and affirm children, their word. Sexualization and moral depravity is normalized. Pornography is pushed in the libraries, as we've just heard. And everything LGBTQ is to be celebrated. Those of us who have Christian values are labeled what? Yeah, we're terrorists. I realize that there are many good and moral teachers here, but I have personally heard it firsthand from 2 elementary teachers here in Rockford that affirmation is their duty, implying that since the family is against the sexual choices of the child, their home is unsafe. They justify all of this because of the high suicide rate in these confused children. Teachers feel that they can push their ideologies onto children because they might commit suicide. I contend that if we got back to facts over feelings and academics over ideologies and indoctrination, eliminating much of the chaos and confusion, suicide rates would drop. How did we get to a place as a society when gender dysphoria is now normal, and so much of what used to be private, shunned, or discouraged is now invited and encouraged, yes, even by teachers in this district? I'd like to draw your attention to this document I distributed. These are from the book entitled The Naked Communist by Cleon Skousen, submitted to Congress on January 10th, 1963. These are communist goals to destroy America from within without ever firing a shot. This is their plan. Some highlights. Number 17, get control of the schools. Use them as transmission belts for socialism and current communist propaganda. Soften the curriculum. Number 26, present homosexuality, degeneracy, and promiscuity as normal, natural, and healthy. Number 41, emphasize the need to raise children away from the negative influence of parents. Attribute prejudices to suppressive influence of parents. Isn't this exactly what is taking place when teachers justify their discussions and affirmations while questioning whether the child's family is safe? I am crying out to you. This is a plan for America using our schools. Study this, consider it. Stop the sexual ideologies and pornography, including what Barb was talking about. Get back to reading, writing, and arithmetic. Not only is our country at stake, our children and grandchildren's future is at stake also.
I'm speechless. I'm gonna have to figure out how to do a better job. So to the board, that's on me. I'll get back to you on it. But I think I'd like us to all be reminded of our policy 01673 regarding public participation, where my job, and this is what I need to do a better job of, is I may prohibit public comments which are frivolous, repetitive, or harassing. I may interrupt, warn, or terminate a participant's statement when the statement is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. I may request an individual to leave the meeting when that person behaves in a manner that is disruptive of the orderly conduct of the meeting. I may request the assistance of law enforcement officers in the removal of a disorderly person when that person's conduct interferes with the orderly progress of the meeting. I may call for a recess or an adjournment to another time when the lack of public decorum so interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting to warrant such action or adjournment.